guys, welcome back to another episode of the One Tree Hill Rewatch here on the Filmaholic channel. And today we're talking about two episodes in Season 7 of One Tree Hill, and that is 708 and 709. So let's go into 708 first. 708 is called I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight, and it originally aired November 2nd, 2009. It was directed by Michael J. Leon and written by Terrence Colley. So when I think about this episode, there's three big things happening in this episode. One, you got the boys going camping. You got the girls doing pot brownies, or eating pot brownies, and then you have Dan, the stuff with him and Rachel on the show. So I guess I'll go into the girls eating the pot brownies first. So, you know, the boys, they're going away, they're going camping, and the girls are by themselves. And when I say the girls, we got Sophia Bush, we got Brooke Davis, we got Haley, we got Quinn. And they're all there, and Quinn's made these, I think she says Taylor's famous brownie recipe, which is actually pot brownies, and she talks about how she used to give this to Taylor as a kid, or not Taylor, Haley, and Haley really loves them. She eats like a bunch. I think she's like at least two or whatnot. So she really gets a high dosage of this, and I like this moment in the show. I think they don't have characters smoke or eat edibles or whatever enough in One Tree Hill, honestly. I was talking about this on my recent episode of On the Rocks about the rating system, and how when if I want to make a teen drama, I want to make a show like One Tree Hill, but when I make one, it wouldn't be able to be on the CW because it would have stuff like with characters smoking weed, with characters smoking, drinking more than what is shown in One Tree Hill, because that's really what it's coming of age. It's really what high school is like. In terms of One Tree Hill, before this instance, which is not really put in a negative light in this, them eating the pot brownies, but I know in season 4 we see Rachel smoking weed in the bathroom at school, and she's kind of looked at like she's dumb by Bevan because she wants to get wasted by smoking weed, and I don't know, it's like, it just seems weird to me that this would, that you would do that, because, like, for an example, a character like Peyton, I would assume would probably smoke weed in high school, and we never really showed it. And does it matter? Does it hurt the show? Absolutely not. But it's just something that I would have put in there to make things more real. Even at parties, you really don't see people smoking a bowl at the party. They're all just drinking, and then that's not really, I can't relate as far as that goes, because every party I've been to has had weed. So yeah, I don't know, but they eat the pot brownies in this episode, and we have some funny moments. They take it a little bit too, they get freaked out, and I don't really know. It's not bad, it's okay, but that happens. Quinn doesn't even actually eat the brownies. She ends up leaving because she goes to see Clay in the episode, but then Brooke and Haley spend the rest of the episode being paranoid, and then they also have the fortune teller that Quinn brought over, which is the lady that played in Drag Me to Hell, directed by Sam Raimi, which I need to rewatch that movie because I remember liking it, but I haven't seen it since it came out in 2009, which was the same year this came out. So that's funny that they were able to get her for this episode. They must, I don't know if they just they saw the movie and they're like, oh man, let's get this lady. But she's in there, and she plays a nice little bit, kind of comical, saying a word that freaks them out in Latin, and it turns out it's Chester, the bunny rabbit. So that's their little part of the episode. And then Quinn, like I said, she goes to Clay's. Clay's not going camping. He's still upset over the Sarah stuff that was in the last episode. And he's still seeing her and really into his mindset of that. And Sarah's ghost, or like I said in my last video, I think it's in his head, but she's telling him, hey, you should have went with the boys. You shouldn't be staying here at home talking to your dead wife. But yeah, so Quinn goes to see him, and he kind of sends her away again at first, and then she goes to leave, and he ends up running out into the rain to stop her, and then he ends up in this episode telling her the truth about Sarah, telling her what happened, and then we get to the end of the episode, and they're on the beach, and they're talking, and that's really, it was teased and stuff beforehand of their relationship, and then, like I said in the past, I think it was episode 4, episode 4, the end of episode 4, when she gets in the car with Clay to go to his house and leave David. That was really, I think, the starting point of their relationship, but this episode is really gets to really, really be them, I guess, even though they're not dating yet, technically, but this is the point where he lets her in, and he tells her the truth, and then she gets interested in learning more about Sarah, and we get them pretty much together, straightforward from here on out. But yeah, let's go to the boys now. We have the boys. They're going camping. We got Nathan, we got Julian, we got Jamie, Chuck, Mouth, and Skills. They're all going camping. This episode is based in July of 2013 is when this is based. Like I said, it originally came out in 2009, but they're ahead in years. And it's just like, it's a fun putting some characters together that haven't really been together that much. Julian hasn't had that much interaction with these other guys, especially Nathan, and they're the two leading men of the show now. Nathan being number 1 and Julian being number 2. So why not have them have scenes together? So we do, and they're pretty nice. I like them, and we also start really the Julian and Jamie relationship in this episode. It's not really touched upon much in season 7, them two having scenes together, but we have it in this episode, and then the finale, which the finale leads into season 8, obviously. So that's when you really get the Julian and Jamie friendship, which I really like. He ends up being Julian's best man and whatnot. So, but this moment we see, Julian tell the story and whatnot, and even in the episode where Jamie, gets to document the stuff on set of Julian's movie, he's like, he starts looking up to Julian a little bit then in the environment that he's in. It's like, hey, maybe I want to be a director and not a basketball player, which I don't think that ever happens. I think he does become a basketball player professionally, but maybe we'll find that out in a spin-off One Tree Hill series. I don't think that'll ever happen, but I'll definitely talk about that in the future, too, by the way. I know an upcoming On the Rocks episode that we're doing in a month or two. I think it's next month. I think it's July. I have my whole schedule. But we're going to be doing one of shows that we wish would get a sequel or continue or whatnot. And I'm definitely going to talk about One Tree Hill in that, but I don't know. It's hard for me to say whether or not I want a sequel to the show, but I'll go into that more in that video. But Nathan, the Brookes sex tape, that gets out in this episode too. Julian didn't know about it, and they actually kind of say it by accident, the guys. So that's funny. The whole Julian with the tent and everything, this is definitely me if I go camping. So that all was relatable. But just really putting characters together. We needed a little, at least for the majority of characters, we needed a fun episode after all of the drama that we'd been through in the last 7 episodes. But then we get to the big part of the episode that I think, which is with Dan and his heart. So Dan is they're filming episodes of his show, and they're doing it for sweeps and everything, seeing what could be best to push. And he ends up having a panic attack out there because he sees a kid, and the kid's chest is bleeding. And Dan has a panic attack, falls over, and then Rachel's like, we're going to use this as sweep because it's good. It's like, we have a show where the star could fall over at any minute. Let's show you actually falling over. It's more interesting, get more views, which that's so shitty. But then he starts questioning Rachel, because we also get flashbacks. This episode actually opens with a scene with Dan having a nightmare. So we knew that him and Rachel met at the strip club. We don't know where that was at, but they met there. And then they end up going to, you would assume Mexico. I don't know. It could be just anywhere in South America, but because I don't think they say, but let's just say they go to Mexico, and Rachel, they end up going to some hospital where Rachel pays a family to take this kid off of life support. So Dan, and they buy the heart so that Dan can get the heart transplant. And that's how he gets his heart transplant. I'm curious how much Dan knew about the situation. I feel like he probably knew they were going there because it was easier to get one, that you could buy it from somebody, but he didn't know who the heart came from until he sees this kid bleeding, and then he starts to realize, put it together, that it was that kid, which really bothers him. And but like I said, the opening scene is him having a nightmare of them just cutting into him at the hospital before he even was under. So we have those moments, and then we have the moment after he had the surgery with Rachel talking and her pretty much laying down the groundwork of her being the mastermind of this whole show idea. And then he also thinks about telling the truth, and coming out that he's not really dying. And she was like, no, they can forgive a murderer, they can't forgive a liar. Which it's all really good stuff. It's all really good writing, because in terms of that, like, if you think about it, that's what she's saying is true. Like, people are going to watch this show, they're going to be interested in it, but if they find out he's lying about the heart thing, they're going to be like, oh, it's a sham, turn it off. Yeah. And then the episode ends with Dan telling Rachel, I think it's, he needs to get out of LA, he needs to go. And she's like, well, where you're thinking, you want to go to the Bahamas or whatever, she was somewhere tropical. And he's like, I want to go home, it's time to go back to Tree Hill. And that's when the episode ends, which takes us to the next episode, which is 709, Now Lift Your Eyes to the Sun. This episode originally aired November 9th, 2009, was directed by the great Sophia Bush and written by Karen Gist. The main thing I think about when I think about this episode is Dan and Rachel returning to Tree Hill, and Haley's concert at Trick, which they also attend. So Dan and Rachel return to Tree Hill. They have a private jet that has Dan's face on the side of it, scot-free. He gets out of the car, out of the plane. They're back. Rachel's not happy to be there. This whole episode wants to leave pretty much as soon as they get there. They go to Nathan and Haley's first because Dan wants to see Jamie. I really like that scene. They come in. Nathan's like, oh my God, I have to deal with this. I have to deal with Rachel. Rachel says some pretty funny stuff, actually, as far as, like, I remember when you were a rumor in third period to Jamie, because he calls her Grandma Rachel, which is funny. But then, we have a really good scene with Dan and Jamie in his bedroom where he's talking about, how he's been watching him all the time, and Dan's like, I hope that you were. But there is a moment within that scene where Jamie mentions, the fact that he still thinks Dan's heart's bad. And you can see the look on Dan's face of, oh, there's that situation that, my family doesn't know. Jamie, person I care most about, doesn't know. And I gotta feel like, too, when he leaves in the mid-season finale, that's one of the things that he struggles with, is not being able to tell Jamie, most of all, anybody, but these other people, hey, I have a new heart. I'm not dying anymore. But, he's here in Tree Hill little time from this point to the mid-season finale. So I feel like if he had stayed in Tree Hill longer, if he had been in 7, 8, and 9, which he is, but he's only in 2 episodes in 8. If he had been in all of that and things had went a little bit differently, I feel like he definitely would have told Jamie the truth instead of not. Because, when you get to the situations in, like, even season 9 when he comes back, with what's happening going on and the little time that he's there before stuff starts happening, there's not really a point for him to come out and tell Jamie that. But yeah, we have that stuff. Rachel goes to see Mouth. Mouth is very uncomfortable, doesn't want her there. And, I was talking to Sarah about this too the other day when we're talking about different characters. Because there's some characters in the future that I'm like, well, I mean, Alex, I'll just say that. When we'll talk about it more when we get there, I don't like Alex's ending on the show. I thought it was really disappointing for them to write her off in that way. I know she had other things she had to go do, and I don't know if she was able to be brought back for the series finale or if they even considered bringing her back for the series finale, but they end up, she's only in 2 episodes of 9, and she's just out without a solid ending for her character. At least based off my memory. Maybe I'll change my mind when I rewatch those. But that bugged me. But in terms of Rachel's ending, when we get to the mid-season finale, because it's the last time we ever see her, and there's other factors into why she didn't come back. But does that bother me of her character having that ending? It doesn't, because I've never really been a huge fan of Rachel anyways. And I think the ending was solid for her. She's ruined all of her relationships. She's ruined her relationship with Mouth. She's ruined her relationship with Brooke, which that's a really good scene in this episode, where she confronts Brooke and tries to give her a check for the money that she stole from her best friend. And Brooke slaps her. Great scene. So, she's burned her bridges there. Really, the only person Rachel has at this point is Dan. And she doesn't really care about Dan. And we'll talk about that in, the episode 11, where he tries to pay her, give her the check. And she says, "You're trying to get rid of me." And he's like, "No, I'm not. I want this to end. Like, we can run away together." And we'll talk about it when we get there, but people that wanted Rachel to come back, why? I'm curious why you wanted Rachel to come back. What would Rachel have done? Because she doesn't have, at this point, connection with anybody. I know Mark mentioned in one thing I listened to or read a while back, that if they had made a season 10, that he wanted to bring Rachel back to come after Dan, revenge on Dan. Okay, you could have done that, but that's really the only thing that you could have done with Rachel. And people who were actually fans of Rachel, is that something that you wanted to see? Is that like, I wouldn't really want her to have any kind of redemption angle. At least with Brooke. Maybe with Mouth you could do it, maybe, but not with Brooke. And it's part of my problem with certain characters. You have ones like Dan that definitely do need redemption arcs, and it's deserved. But then you have other characters where it's like, not everybody needs a redemption. And that's what I like about the Rachel ending, is that this is life. She's there, she's gone, she's been in all of these seasons, but she's never learned anything. She's only gotten worse, and that's the ending. Of course, that hasn't happened yet, but I'm just venting about that. Haley, she has the concert in this episode, which is free, which is cool, but like, she's constantly like just screwing Miranda over in this season in terms of Miranda trying to help run Red Bedroom and do her job, and Haley's like, let's do a free concert. Hey, let's keep this label that's costing us a lot of money open when we have barely any artists. Which does remind me, Grubbs has came in at this point. I think it's this episode that he came in. This is his first episode. Although it could have... It's been a little bit since I did the other videos. No, Grubbs came in an earlier episode. But he is in this one. He has the gift, of picking somebody's drink. And I like Grubbs overall. I think they should have kept him in a little bit longer too. Brooke thinks she's pregnant this episode, and she finds out she's not, which then leads us into that storyline with Brooke's character that she can't have kids. Which is, I don't hate that storyline, but I don't love it either. Really thinking about it overall. But yeah, that happens in this episode, which puts her in an even worse state of the stuff with Julian and Alex. She thinks she's pregnant, but then she finds out she can't have kids, and at the same time, this whole Julian and Alex flirtatious relationship is still going on, even if it's not that way from Julian's point of view. It is definitely from Alex. She threatens Julian that she's going to do this cocaine, and he comes over there to try to stop her, realizes the cocaine's gone, which, then we find out Millie, at the end of the episode, is actually the one who took the cocaine and is now doing cocaine. because apparently, she did the diet pills, so now she's doing cocaine. And Millicent also steals the dress from Clothes of a Bros. That's not like it's for next year, for next summer. This is summer right now, but I think she says it's for the following summer. And Millicent gets the dress, wears it, and causes really big issues with Brooke because she's like, hey, you need to take that dress off right now. That happens. Like I said, Rachel gives Brooke the check, gets slapped. Millicent does coke. Nathan and Dan have a scene in the bar, which is pretty good. And Dan gets a whiskey and then ends up not drinking it and giving it to Nathan because Nathan makes a comment to try to insult Dan even further. But pretty much Dan in this scene is like, hey, I'm here. I want to be here for you. I want to be here for my family. I want this redemption, and I want to make things right. And Dan's like, I'm going to, I accept you in my life because of Jamie, but you're not getting any sort of forgiveness from me. You died when you killed your brother. Which is what he's been saying for like at least the whole season since when Dan rescued Jamie from Carrie. But I don't know. It just sucks because then he's also he tells Dan like you don't do anything for other people, which then leads to the mid-season finale. But he doesn't do anything for other people. This whole Renee thing, you did this for yourself, which isn't the case. I mean, did he have the thought maybe this will smooth things over? Absolutely, you would have that thought. You would hope so, but he didn't do it for himself. And even if that argument of him doing it for himself so Nathan forgive him, that's because he loves Nathan and he wants to have that relationship, So, I mean, I don't know. It's sad, but then it plays into the rest of this half of the season, which is pretty good, I think. You have the Clay and Quinn stuff in the episode 2. They're together, spending time together, which then that plays into the end of the episode, the cliffhanger, which is when Nathan and Haley get home from the club and they turn on the TV and realize that the Bobcats have picked someone else to fill Nathan's spot and are capped out. And now Nathan's not going to play for the Bobcats anymore. He's going to have to find another team. And then he turns the TV off. But the situation is Clay and Quinn don't even know about it. They're together doing this other thing. And that ends the episode on this cliffhanger, which is going to take us into episode 10, which I'll talk about in the next video. So don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks, guys.